there. Welcome to the Nisha Jackson Show. I'm Rusty Humphries. She's Nisha Jackson, and we sure appreciate you being here. Subscribe. What? Subscribe.
You said subscribe.
Thank you. Subscribe to the Nisha Jackson Show and share it, please. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you're finding us. Very, very important. All right. So today, Nisha, we're going to meet a friend of yours. Now, this is somebody you met in like not Costa Mesa, California. Costa Rica.
Another country.
Okay. And this was when you went to that woo-woo crazy.
Not crazy, but a little woo-woo, yes.
But something that really affected your life. What was that place again? It was one of the first things we ever talked about on this podcast.
Well, one of the shows we did earlier, we talked about, what did 2019 mean to me personally? And I got a little bit open on that show, which is not something I normally do publicly. But 2019 was a great year for me because I got to the point that I was so emotionally exhausted on many personal issues that I was really desperate for something different. I was desperate for something more in my life. And I wanted to change some things inside me that I just couldn't make headway on. And I wanted to go, one of my goals for this last year, 2019, was to go to a spiritual retreat outside the country by myself. And which was kind of a big deal. I mean, traveling outside the country by yourself to a spiritual retreat, where I could really do detox and go to workshops and really learn more about, getting myself to a better me.
I mean, learning more about you.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Because I'm so outward. Everything I do is really outward. It's with my friends. It's with my patients. It's with my family. It's with my kids. And I don't believe personally that I've done enough internal work over my life. So that's what this was all about. And I was fortunate enough to, on the way there, I flew out of DFW to Costa Rica, and I was fortunate enough to meet another person who was going to this retreat that was actually traveling from Guantanamo. He was working at the time in Cuba, and
that's not Cuba.
I know, but yes, it is. I know it's not Cuba, but you know what I mean. Anyway,
he was working on the base. He does a lot of construction stuff there. He wasn't in the prison cage. No, I mean, people go, what was he doing? Was he working in the prison? He wasn't with the prisoners or anything like that.
No. Anyway, we became fast friends, and he's really become an important person in my life. And I want to talk about his health journey because that's what we talk about on this show. But
what was his issue before? Because he seems pretty, healthy and young and ready to go.
Right. So I'm going to show in this show the before and after picture where he was just 7 months ago when I first met him and where he's at today, what this looks wise. And I didn't set out to treat this person, but because we became friends and he was so intrigued with everything that we do at One Peak Medical, he really wanted to, and he was there to get healthy. He was there at this retreat also to get healthy, physically healthy.
So he wasn't feeling good then?
He wasn't feeling good, but a lot of people, Rusty, especially men, don't know they feel bad or how bad they feel until they feel better. And he's a perfect example of that. And so that's why I thought it would be fun to do a show with him.
All right. What's his name?
Michael.
Michael. Let's bring in Michael here on the Nisha Jackson Show.
Right. So here we have Michael Woods. He is my really good friend that I met in Costa Rica. And I just want to tell a little bit of story, a little story about our meeting and what really impressed me about him. And so Michael has lived all over the world. He's 52 years old. And a very strong, has been traditionally a very strong, healthy person, but not living the best, most healthiest lifestyle. And I really believe in the early 50s is when people's health starts to change. And I keep wanting to write this book that talks about how to get your act together when you're in your 50s, because after you're 50, once you're out of your 50s, it's much more difficult to sort of get back what you've lost. And so we caught him at the right time, and he was very intrigued with what we do at One Peak Medical and wanted to kind of go on a path of getting more healthy. And so when he came to the United States, actually moved to the United States, he asked if I would treat him. And so one of the things we did was very similar to what we did with Rusty in the past. We looked at all of his blood levels. And his testosterone level was really low. He's been under a lot of stress at many stages of his life, like we all are. and his testosterone level was very suppressed. And he said at that time that his energy levels were really low, and just wasn't feeling as vibrant as he would have liked to have felt. He also could not build muscle mass. But again, these are some of the things that men often don't know they're feeling. Men often describe maybe not being as enthusiastic about their life, just kind of feeling a little blah or irritable. And that has a lot to do with where the testosterone levels are. And so, Michael, tell me just a little bit, or tell our listening audience just a little bit about what you were experiencing that now that you feel better, you can look back and go, I really was feeling this. Like, what are some of the things that come to your mind?
So I was getting really tired all the time. I had a previous pituitary issue that I'd been treated for 20 plus years earlier. And my health care was just, the standard of care is just, you're in the range. So you got to be feeling fine.
Right.
You're normal. So you're fine. That didn't really work out well for me because I had a lot of extracurricular activities and hobbies in Guantanamo. Did a lot of woodworking, pottery, photography, diving. And every night after work, I was constantly doing something. And especially the last year there, I really felt that I was getting more tired. Like I first felt, 20 plus years ago when I was diagnosed with my pituitary issue. And I thought maybe it was my medicine or just because of my age and I wasn't working out like I should. Mm-hmm. I definitely wasn't eating really well. And I was just really tired, not being able to do my hobbies and having as much fun as I had previously been doing.
Okay, so he's kind of understating he wasn't eating well. So when I met him, he was maybe the most significant sugaraholic I've ever met. I'm a sugaraholic too, and I work really hard at not eating sugar because I feel terrible when I eat it. But he was eating give an example of what you could do in one sitting with sugar.
I would say my average day was I would start with hot tea with a lot of honey in it and probably a muffin. And then by 10 o'clock, I was going to the store and getting a whole can of those nice pirouettes. And that would be gone by lunchtime. And then I would have lunch, just a sandwich or something from Subway or something. And then by 2, I was having, sweet tea. And then by 4, I was having another sweet tea and then have a little dinner with lots of chocolate in between. So
you can eat a lot of sugar in one day. And the thing is that sugar is so disabling to your system because one of the things that Michael had besides low testosterone is he had too much yeast in his gut. I'm going to get graphic here. His scalp was itching. This is a huge problem for Americans. Their scalp is itching. Their body's itching. They don't feel good during the day, and they cannot get on top of the sugar cravings because there's so much yeast in their gut that it's keeping their gut from absorbing the nutrients from their food and their supplements that they're taking, if they're even taking them. And so therefore they cannot get nutrient balanced, and then the cravings continue to take over. So one of the things we did for Michael when he moved over to the States was to treat his gut by killing the yeast in his gut, killing the excessive yeast in his gut. And that's called Candida, which we're going to do a show on in the upcoming weeks. And that is really important because if you can start absorbing better through your gut, what will happen is that your energy will come up, your hormones will be more stabilized, all of your brain chemicals will be optimized. Most people don't understand that it takes B vitamins to make all of your neural brain chemicals. And one of the brain chemicals is called serotonin. And most people know serotonin as the feel-good hormone, but serotonin is also really responsible for preventing cravings. So imagine he's eating all this sugar, he's got yeast in his gut, he's already tired from low testosterone and other nutrient deficiencies, and he's just trying to get on track with his cravings, trying maybe not to eat that much sugar because he knows, everyone knows intuitively it's not good for you. But he can't get on top of it because his brain chemical serotonin's not optimized and it's making him crave more. So this is that vicious cycle that we've talked about a lot.
Every couple of hours, I would have to have more sugar just to almost wake up to keep going.
Exactly. I know. I'm glad you said that because that's such a common problem for people. So now that you've had your gut optimized, you get nutrient shots, you have had the testosterone pellets. And actually you're towards the end of the 6 months of those pellets. And for men, the testosterone pellets last about 6 to 7 months. So he's coming to the end of those pellets. But you still act like you feel great. So tell me, before I ask this other question, I've got so much stuff going in my head. Tell me what you think are the things that are the most different now compared to where you were when I first met you.
My sugar cravings have gone way down. I still eat sugar. I don't eat nearly the quantity that I used to eat, and I don't crave it like I used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going from crash cycle to peak, then crash cycle to peak. So I can make it through the day eating healthy foods, and I've got energy. I feel alive. My skin color, it's sad that I lived in the Caribbean for 4.5 years, and I was the palest person I ever knew. And I would go diving. I would be outside a lot.
Right.
So my skin is a lot healthier. I feel a lot healthier. I feel better than I did at 26.
Oh, wow. You haven't told me that. That's impressive.
Surprising.
That's impressive. So, so you talked about what your typical food would be during the day prior to me meeting you. Tell me how you eat now, because I'm, as you know, I'm all about, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be 80% on, because the other 20% you can do whatever you want. So tell me how you eat now compared to how you ate before.
So one of the big things that, you introduced me to was intermittent fasting. So now I don't normally eat breakfast. I just have a tea or something in the morning with just a little bit of honey, not nearly the quantity that I used to. And so I will go to either 11, 12, 1 o'clock. So I'm hitting 17, 18 hours since my previous meal. And, the first few days, first week is really hard to do that, because I think it's more mental than physical. You just think, oh, I gotta eat. But it's once you get past that, you feel so much better. You don't eat nearly as much. You naturally want to stay away from junk food more, because you want something healthy to get you through that long cycle of not eating. And
what about because you had talked about the afternoon crashes, which is something that's so prevalent with people today, is hitting the wall in the afternoon. How is that different now than where it was before?
I don't hit a wall nearly as bad. I still do start yawning pretty early in the afternoon, but I don't crash. I don't feel like I have to have something just to keep me awake.
Yes.
I could my entire life, I've been able to, if I sit still for 5 minutes, I fall asleep. It doesn't matter where I'm at. I even fell asleep standing up in the hospital and Gitmo one time.
And what about, did you, this is something I haven't asked you, you do a lot of creative work besides doing commercial contracting. You do a lot of creative work. So you do woodworking, you've done a lot of ceramics, you love photography, you make jewelry. I mean, you're really firing on both sides of your brain. How do you feel that optimizing your health, your diet, your nutrients, your testosterone, quality of sleep at night, because I know you're sleeping more now than you did in the past, what do you think that has done? This is kind of a leading question, but what do you think that's done to your outlook on life?
So I think I've always been fairly positive, but I'm much more upbeat and positive now. The fog in my brain, concentration is much better now. I always felt that I had a fog, kind of hard to focus, hard to maintain clarity. It's much better now, and it's easier to execute things because it's clearer in your mind.
Do you think your motivation, not that it sounds like you've always been motivated your whole life, but do you think your motivation for living a healthier, higher quality of life is better now than it was before?
Absolutely. I think as Americans, as humans, we all know that we should eat healthier and exercise and do better. But it's one of those things that we always put on the back burner. Well, I've got to go to the shop. Well, I've got to get this done for work. Well, I've got to clean the house. I've got to do this. I want to go out with some friends. So we always use these other excuses to keep us from doing the things that we know. If we work out for a week regularly, we feel better. But yet somehow after a week or two, we stop doing it.
Right.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
But yeah, I'm a lot more focused now, and it's a lot easier to stay on track.
That's awesome. So if you're listening to this podcast today and you can relate to any part of it, especially the parts about maybe just not feeling your most optimal self, it doesn't really matter what age you are. You could have these levels tested. You can see where you're at. And any one of us at One Peak Medical can analyze them. I do a lot of consults for people all over the world, and we can order blood work for you and have your whole profile looked at and give you a plan to get back on track and become, I love what people say is probably the most common thing people say to me when they get balanced in the program is, I feel like I finally got my life back. And that's something that y'all can do. And it's very easy. You can go to nishajackson.com and look on the website. You can also go to our medical website, which is called One Peak Medical, and get information about our program. We talk about this a lot. This is a book called Brilliant Burnout. Many of the chapters in here are relevant to helping restore your health as you age, which I think is really important for all of us. So,
and it's good for men. It's
yes.
Not just for women. There's a lot of information for men that can pick up in there and learn something.
Yes, there's only one chapter that doesn't apply to men, but actually it kind of applies to men because if you have a female in your life, you should know about her hormones. So there's really only one chapter. So thank you for joining us today, and thank you for this last minute get on this show impromptu discussion.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.